College professors, what's the most satisfying thing you've ever witnessed in class? I teach international politics at the State University downtown. Every semester I run group debates where students pick real countries and defend their political positions on current events. It's my favorite part of the job because you get to see who really knows their stuff versus who just talks big. 2 days before the midterm presentations, I got an email from Maddie, one of my quieter students. She was worried about her teammate Blake, who claimed he'd translated Russian military documents for their project. The problem was, Maddie was pretty sure Blake didn't speak a word of Russian. I asked if she could prove it during the actual presentation. She just replied, yes, and nothing else. Blake was this cocky kid who always sat in the back row making smart comments. Rich family, expensive clothes, the type who thought he could coast through college on charm alone. He'd been bragging all week about how their presentation would blow everyone away because he had access to exclusive Russian sources nobody else could get. The day of presentations arrived and Blake's group went third. He strutted to the front wearing his usual smirk and opened with, "I personally translated these classified Russian military documents myself." His slides were packed with bold claims about how Russia was actually the good guy in their recent invasion of Ukraine. The documents he showed made Russian forces look like peacekeepers, just trying to help civilians. Other students were nodding, looking impressed. Even I had to admit the presentation seemed well-researched. Blake was eating up the attention, gesturing dramatically as he read quotes from his so-called translations. Then Maddie stood up slowly from her seat. "I'd like to read part of one of those documents aloud," she said calmly, then switched to perfect fluent Russian. She read an entire paragraph, her pronunciation crisp and confident. The whole class went silent. Blake's face went white. She translated it back to English word by word. According to the real document, Russian forces were discussing civilian evacuation routes specifically to target them later. It was brutal and completely contradicted everything Blake had just presented. But Maddie wasn't done. She walked to the front and pulled up the actual Russian government document on our classroom projector. Side by side with Blake's version, you could see he'd completely rewritten the worst parts to sound innocent and heroic. "You used Google Translate and then edited out anything that made Russia look bad," Maddie said matter-of-factly. "You also forgot to remove the metadata from your Google slides. It shows the edit history." I pulled up Blake's slides on my laptop and checked the revision history. She was absolutely right. You could see exactly when he'd pasted in the Google Translate text, then systematically deleted and changed every incriminating line. Blake started stammering. "I must have gotten a different version of the document somewhere else. Maybe there were multiple translations floating around online." Maddie shook her head. "No, Blake. This is the only official version. And even if there were others, you claimed you translated it yourself, remember?" The entire class erupted in whispers. Blake looked around desperately for support, but found none. His group members were staring at their shoes, clearly embarrassed to be associated with him. "Plus," Maddie continued, "if you actually spoke Russian, you'd know that the phrase you translated as peaceful intervention actually means hostile occupation in this context. Any native speaker would catch that immediately." Blake's mouth opened and closed like a fish. He had nothing. No comeback, no excuse, no way out. I stood up and addressed the class. "This is exactly why academic integrity matters. Blake, you'll receive a 0 for this assignment. The rest of your group can present their sections for partial credit." As Blake gathered his things, the whole class started clapping for Maddie. Not just polite classroom applause, but a real standing ovation. She'd exposed a fraud in front of 30 people using nothing but her actual knowledge and preparation. Blake never showed up to class again, dropped the course entirely the next week. Maddie ended up getting an A+ on the project and went on to become one of my best students that year.